Am I the a-hole for laughing at my brother-in-law's income? I, 35 female, met my husband Ray, 35 male, about 12 years ago. He was a junior engineer at the time, but he was perceptive, considerate, funny, and just overall my ideal guy. The only thing I didn't like was the way he and his brother Pete, now 38 male, interacted. Pete loves to talk about how successful he is and his friends were, and undermines Ray's accomplishments as that's good for your age. Ray overlooks it because he wants to be supportive of his brother. At the time, I wanted to say something about Pete's arrogance, since not only was I not impressed by his income, it's not a secret that Pete is noticeably uglier, inside and out, than his younger brother. I didn't because Ray preferred I let it be. Pete continues to do this for the next 12 years. I tried hinting that we're all doing well and this is an awkward topic, but Pete brushed it off with patronizing, saying like, "You'll get there." Fast forward to now, we're all married with children. 2 weeks ago, Pete with his wife and son dropped by for a visit since Pete was on a business trip. Within a couple hours, Pete starts bragging about his recent raise. He's finally broken X $100,000 per year, and his wife will be going for a promotion that will land her around Y $100,000 per year. Ray was just as supportive as he usually is. Then Pete goes, "You'll get there eventually." Our son, who is playing nearby with Pete's son, stopped and asked if that's a lot. Pete's son said, "Yeah, duh." And I said, "No." Pete then laughed and told me to not set too high of an expectation for my children. So, and this is where I might be the a-hole, I laughed and said, "If you must know, X $100,000 is what we paid in taxes last year." Pete and his wife went silent, and Ray tried to change the subject. Then Pete suggested that we should get a new accountant because that's way too much for Texas. I lost my patience and asked him how much he thought our job titles should pay in Texas, or if he was still under the impression that his little brother is an entry-level engineer. Admittedly, it was not my best moment, but I really disliked him for trying to put down my husband in front of my son. After they left, I got a text from Pete about how I owe him an apology for embarrassing him in front of his son. I told him I will not, but I'm happy to never speak of income again if he will stop bringing it up in front of my son. Ray agrees with me, but asks a favor to let Pete talk in the future as long as it's not in front of the kids. He says his brother has some self-esteem issues, and if it makes Pete feel better to pretend he's more successful than Ray's okay with it. I really don't see the need to keep babysitting an almost 40-year-old man's ego, and frankly, I don't want a man anywhere near my son. But as I don't have a sibling with a self-esteem issue, I don't know if I'm overreacting. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You are super patient. 12 years. I wouldn't have lasted one. To be honest, it was tempting to go off on him earlier, especially after his toast at our wedding that made my dad almost throw him out. The only reason I didn't was because my husband made it funny later and we ended up laughing it off. Wait, Pete did this patronizing stunt at your wedding? You might need to tell your husband point blank that his relationship with his brother is incredibly unhealthy, and it's toxic that they are teaching their sons to continue this dynamic as cousins. It started as an okay toast but got condescending and ended with a "not bad for a bachelor's degree, right? Brother-in-law has a PhD." My dad got angry because 1, rude, and 2, he doesn't like PhDs. But people chilled after my husband made some jokes about his brother being convoluted/hard to understand, and ended with "not bad for a PhD, right?" That said, my son will be spending less time with brother-in-law's son until habits improves. It sounds like your husband may have normalized his role of being his brother's punching bag, and then smoothing it over in front of company so no one holds brother-in-law accountable. Obviously, I don't know these people, and so you'd be able to tell if this is accurate or off base. Your husband might need to be reminded that everyone gets insecure and jealous, but most people learn healthy ways of processing, not taking cheap shots during a wedding speech or raising your son to look down on his poor, as brother-in-law assumed you were, cousins. Not the a-hole at all. It sounds like brother-in-law is getting worse over time, and that's probably because no one shut down his behavior before. Better late than never. You shut that nonsense down. Don't apologize. And if he doesn't see the problems with his behavior, tell him not to worry. He'll get there eventually. I'm definitely borrowing your line if this doesn't come down. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving for uni without telling my parents? Anyway, I'm female 19 and literally just moved out of my family home. By just, I mean today, in the morning. I thought my decision was right, but one of my new flatmates thinks I'm in the wrong, so I need some impartial opinion. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings. I have 5 younger brothers, and I lived with them and my parents. My parents had me very young. They were both 16 at a time. And from the very young age, I was expected to babysit them, take care of them, and help with a lot of chores. My brothers never had to do any chores whatsoever. When I went to secondary school, I started questioning things. And when I started 6th form, my parents suggested I quit because I won't be going to university anyway since I have to help with my brothers, as my mother won't be able to do so alone. I did my A-levels anyway. I tried talking to my parents about university plans, but they kept telling me to drop it because I'm staying. I, however, was adamant that I want to go. I was to apply for financing as an independent student, without them taking my parents' income into consideration. It was very difficult, but I managed it, and I had all correspondence sent to my friend's address. Anyway, with all finance sorted, academic year is about to start, and my uni had moving-in date today until the end of the week. In the morning, when my parents went out and my siblings went to school, I packed everything I needed, like clothes and basic necessities, left a letter I prepared, and left without them knowing, getting a train to my university town. I had to do it that way because they wouldn't let me go. I've had countless of phone calls from them since the morning. I've picked up once, and they shouted at me, demanding I come back or tell them where exactly I am. I didn't give them my address. I didn't pick up other phone calls, and I thought I was right about this. But when I told my flatmates, one of them called me an a-hole and that my parents are probably worried sick, and I should give them my address at the very least. Now I don't know. Am I the a-hole for leaving so suddenly? You're never the a-hole for escaping abuse. Your flatmate is young and maybe hasn't experienced the type of background you just came from. I wouldn't take their comments to heart. If you had told them in advance, they absolutely would have stopped you and messed up your education. If you give them your address, you can bet everything you have that they'll show up at your door to drag you back. I hope you thrive and have a wonderful time at uni. I'm not sure if anyone has told you this yet, but I'm proud of you. What you did wasn't easy and took a lot of strength and courage. You're absolutely not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but I would stop telling your flatmates anything if that's how they respond. You can let them know that any way a person escapes a harmful situation is okay, and that your parents know you left and that you're safe, and that's all that matters. With that said, if possible, I'd get another phone, change your number, and get rid of your old phone. They can track it, especially if it's on their phone plan, in some situations, and I doubt they will easily let go of their free babysitter and free labor. They will harass you forever. Cut them off completely. And be careful who you tell about your home situation moving forward. Information is power. Sometimes when we're in unhealthy environments, we tend to talk to anyone who seems to have a sympathetic ear, but you need to make sure these people are trustworthy people first. If there's a free school counselor, I'd make an appointment with them instead. And never tell your family where you are. If you keep in contact with your siblings and they push for info, I'd have another university picked out with basic information that you can say enough about to have a convincing story. A university far from where you actually are. Not the a-hole. Please let your school know the situation and have them lock down your info. Also, call the police for both your town and the school to make them aware you are safe, an adult, and you are fleeing from a horrible environment. That you are concerned for your safety, possible retaliation, and being brought home and held against your will. If you do not do this, your parents will end up getting info and address from you and the police will be at your door. If you do not have your birth certificate on you, they may try physically detain you at the police station and let your parents know where you are. Once the school is made aware and both police stations, please tell your roommates that you are fleeing a horrible situation and that allowing your parents to know where you are is safety risk. It would also be helpful to call a few key relatives to let them know your side of the story and that you are safe. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my daughter after she pawned a family heirloom? I have 3 daughters, Lucy, female 21, Diane, female 17, and Rosa, female 15. Their father, my husband, unfortunately passed away in a work accident 11 years ago. We were all devastated, and it was a terrible shock. We were able to get by with my parents helping out with the kids so that I could work. We're doing much better now financially. However, I've been having a lot of problems with Lucy. Not long after she turned 18 and finished school, she's suddenly gone off the rails, is mingling with some very sketchy people, and I don't know what to do with her. She's gotten into heavy smoking cigarettes and weed, partying at every opportunity, getting drunk every day, and I suspect she's been doing hard stuffs. She started treating the house like a bread and breakfast and is very disrespectful to me and her sisters. I didn't raise her to act like this, and I'm at my wit's end. I've tried to get her into rehab and therapy, but she just refuses to go and gets very angry when I bring it up. Lucy stays with us rent-free. She works a job in retail and buys her own groceries but blows the rest of her income. The last straw for me was something that happened 3 weeks ago. Diane and Rosa have pieces of very expensive jewelry that they inherited from their dad's mother after she passed away last year. The jewelry had been in the family for generations. Whilst they were at school, their pieces of jewelry went missing from their rooms. Diane and Rosa were incredibly upset when they noticed the jewelry was missing. I asked Lucy if she knew what happened to the jewelry. Lucy lied and said she didn't know. I pressed the issue and pointed out that she went partying and spent loads of money, and Lucy eventually admitted that she stole the jewelry and pawned it. Even though it was kind of obvious that it was Lucy, I was still shocked that she would do something like that. I told Lucy that this is it, and that I'm kicking her out. I told her that she needs to be out in 3 days. I didn't think it was fair on Diane and Rosa to keep someone like Lucy around when she keeps causing chaos and destruction in our home, and I was also worried about Diane and Rosa being influenced by her. Lucy left the next day and went to go stay with my parents, who were saying I'm a horrible mother for kicking Lucy out and that I'm clearly playing favorites. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. If they are heirlooms gifted to your daughters, you need to report the jewelry as stolen. Local police get pawn sheets from local pawn stores and check them against stolen property reports. Your daughter will probably get arrested because pawn shops take the IDs of people pawning goods, but you may be able to retrieve the jewelry. I don't think Opie is an a-hole for kicking her daughter out of the house, but I do think she will be one if she doesn't try to get the jewelry back. Not the a-hole. I wholly agree with this. Do not lose those family heirlooms that belong to your other daughters because of Lucy's dishonest behavior. I think Lucy pawned the jewelry for drug money. Both are correct. I am recovering, and being an addict doesn't absolve us from our actions. What it does mean is that we were sick. People get sober and try to atone for their actions, but whether the victim accepts it is up to them. We can't change the past. We are responsible for our past. We can try our best to make amends, and the rest is out of our hands. It's complicated because it's not simple. Not the a-hole. Your daughter has some things to figure out. Maybe she will, maybe she won't, but ultimately you still have 2 other non-destructive children to prioritize and care for. She's 21, and while you'll always be her mom, she's an adult and responsible for who she wants to be, where she wants to go, and what she wants to do. Meanwhile, you have actual minors to worry about. Hopping onto this comment to point out that Opie needs to check the credit reports of the younger children and herself. You need to make sure no credit card/identity theft has taken place. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my half of the rent? I, 19 female, have been living with a close friend, 19 female, since last December. We co-signed a lease, so both our names are on paper for the place we're renting out, and we pay 50-50 for the rent. The lease was up a couple of months ago, but we were still making back-to-back monthly payments due to our agreement with our landlord. Everything was going good, up until a couple months ago when my roommate started acting differently. It started off with some small things, like when she'd have a bad day at work, she would get home and basically take it out on me, which fine, I can handle minor mood swings. I thought it would just be a temporary thing anyways. However, it gradually got worse. She was constantly mad at me and would look for anything to berate for, sometimes without even giving a reason why after. Not only that, but she kept acting like the place was solely hers. She would say things to mutual friends about how it was her place, therefore she had a final say in whatever happened to it, or who was welcome and who wasn't without even consulting me. I finally had enough, so I decided that it was time for me to move out. I gave our landlord my 1-month notice to be out by the end of September and told her about it the next day. She gave the landlord her 1-month notice about 2 weeks after I told her, but by then it was already September, so she informed him she would be gone by October. Even before I gave my notice to the landlord, I've been staying with a different friend, 20 male, so I haven't been there since almost a month ago now. The other day, she messaged me saying the rent was gonna be due for October and that I had to pay my half. But I told her, I'm afraid I can't do so as I gave my notice that I'd be gone by the end of September. She ended up getting mad and saying that this was not fair and that I'm totally screwing her over. I haven't even been living there for almost a month now, so I feel I shouldn't have to pay for a place that isn't mine anymore. But I do feel kind of bad about it. So am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my half of the rent? Not the a-hole. Your written lease had expired and you were operating under a month-to-month lease. You properly informed your landlord and co-tenant that you were not going to continue the lease and paid your portion of the final month of your lease. You did literally nothing wrong, legally or morally. Not the a-hole. You gave your 1 month notice on time and will be out in 1 month. She wanted the place to be solely hers, and that's what she got. Lol. Good luck, OP. Just from OP's other posts, the issues coincided with OP's boyfriend who was living there at a time picking up hard substances after running from his own addict parents. OP never posted a conclusion on if they kicked him out and how that all went down. I can definitely see why the roommates might have taken a stand on who's allowed through the door after that. We both mutually agreed to kick him out, and I ran everything by her before we let him move in. In no way did I ever treat it like it wasn't both our place. I viewed us as equals, so I never did anything without consulting her first. Whereas she let her addict brother stay with us for months on end without even running it by me. Oof, yeah, I feel you were not the a-hole in regards to leaving or the lease. Just wasn't sure if the prior post had caused a change in her behavior. Completely understandable. However, I don't know what triggered a change. I wish I did, and I wish it was something we could have sorted out. But it doesn't seem that way as I've tried talking to her about it, and she said I was just lashing out and being dramatic. Am I the a-hole for having a celebration dinner after my brother's divorce? My brother just got his divorce finalized. No one in the family liked his wife, as she was not a nice person. Like she'd ask for ideas on what to spend his money on. Was the type of person that celebrated her birthday for 2 weeks and expected everyone to do the same. There were many arguments over that, when people in our family didn't show up for each and every event she planned or wore the shirts she'd make for her birthday. She would interrupt when people were talking to talk about herself, then would go running to our mother anytime she asked for something, and my brother told her no. The tipping point was when our mother was going through chemo. She had issues with her feet swelling and would elevate them while resting on a couch. The one time we all came to visit, my brother brought his wife, and she just took the pillow out from under mom's feet to use it in the chair she was in because she was tired. But aside from expressing our concerns when they first started dating, we never said anything to him and tolerated her for his sake to not push him away and just griped amongst ourselves. But now they're divorced. The day that it was finalized, I took my brother out for dinner and invited some of our friends that hadn't been able to see him because of his wife. While we were at a restaurant, I toasted this new chapter in life, and someone said, "Real classy." And it turned out one of ex-sister-in-law's friends now works at a restaurant. We finished our dinner, left, went out for a while longer, then went home. And while watching a show with my wife, my phone was going off with notifications. All messages from my ex-sister-in-law chewing me out for celebrating their divorce. Since my wife wanted to know who was messaging me, I showed her the messages, and she's of mind that while she understands why no one liked my ex-sister-in-law, celebrating their divorce and toasting it was a prick move. She thought I had been exaggerating when I said I was taking my brother out to celebrate. It's been a few days now, and my wife is still shaking her head at me over it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. There could have been balloons and cake, but you kept it low-key. It's not your fault ex-sister-in-law's friend grassed you up. Block her and move on. The only way you would have been the a-hole would have been if your brother didn't want to celebrate like he's feeling down, sad, etc. and you decided to turn it into a celebration because you didn't like his ex. It doesn't matter if his ex was a wonderful person. If your brother is happy the divorce is finally over and you want to be there to help him celebrate, then that's great. If it were me, I would go to the sister-in-law's friend's workplace and let them know that OP is being harassed because she saw them at her place of business. Also, post it on their Yelp page / Google reviews and named a friend. Not the a-hole. You should have gotten t-shirts made and celebrated for 2 weeks. Do this, then go back to that same restaurant. Maybe even for 2 weeks. Not the a-hole. Why is your ex-sister-in-law able to contact you, as much as you don't like her, and have her blocked ages ago? Lol. I don't use my Facebook often, so I completely forgot about it. She's blocked now. Out of genuine curiosity, for my own selfish personal reasons, did your brother ever say why he liked this woman in the first place? Like, did she flip the script after they got married? No, she was like that before they got married. His reasoning was that she was always sweet to him when they worked together. And 1, he thought her ragging on him about his friends, hobbies, and style of dress was her wanting the best for him, so they could have a family someday. And 2, she always told him about how her previous relationships were all abusive. so we wanted to do anything to help her and be good to her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to continue paying rent when I buy my own house? My boyfriend, 31 male, bought a house this year, which is an unprecedented achievement in our country. He earns 5 or 6 times more than I, 27 female, do, and we usually split everything 50-50. But lately I've been calling attention to the fact that I'm supporting more expenses, but I gave him a discount since he was going to buy a house. Just recently he bought a house and has asked me to move in with him. However, he's also asked me to pay a symbolic rent, which is essentially the same amount I'm currently paying for rent elsewhere. Additionally, even though he's hired someone to clean the house, I know that I'll still be responsible for a lot of domestic tasks. At first, I suggested that I pay for all the utility bills, such as electricity, gas, water, and internet, as well as food expenses. But he didn't agree, and we had a disagreement about it. Eventually, I agreed with him that it would be simpler to just pay a fixed amount, instead of splitting the bills and creating any entropy. The discussion has become more intense now, because I mentioned that I will be able to buy a house by the end of the year. I explained that it wouldn't make sense for me to continue paying him rent if I have my own place, and suggested that we find a solution that works for both of us. However, he thinks he is being overly generous, and he says that I would still be benefiting by paying that amount. Since I've been with him, I have had very high expenses, and I've told him several times that I can't keep up with his lifestyle and that he should support some costs, at least half, because I currently don't have the capacity to handle both expenses. He works very hard to make real money, and from the start of our relationship, I have been the one taking care of the domestic chores, cooking for him and helping out with grocery shopping. When we go out to eat, we split the bill, and I don't mind doing all this for him because he is amazing. He expressed gratitude for my efforts, but also stated his hope that I wasn't doing them expecting financial gain. He went on to share his vision for the future, stating his preference for separate accounts and everything being kept separate. He suggested that I live in his house by paying rent to assist him with his credit, but emphasized that the house would always remain his property. He also mentioned that even with children, he would like everything to be equally divided. I explained to him that I can't keep up with his lifestyle, as I won't earn as much as he does. However, he became skeptical and hurt, implying that I'm only with him for his money, and calling me an idiot for not understanding the situation and now not seeing things as they are. My friends have told me that he's taking advantage of me, and that I'm just a convenience for him for now, and I'm starting to wonder if they're right. Should we be more individualistic in our approach to finances, or should we work together to build a good life and acquire property? Am I the one being unreasonable here? Not the a-hole. He is taking advantage of you. He is treating you like a live-in bangmaid, and on top of that, expects you to pay for the privilege. Not the a-hole, OP. Carry on with buying your house, and let your soon-to-be ex-boyfriend find someone else to pay towards his bills. He's treating you like a maid/lodger with benefits. You need a partner who values you. I always wanted to live in my own space, because at least when the nonsense happens, I could go back to my own sanctuary and not be stressed with a crapola. My boyfriend never understood that, and of course, we did not marry. Not the a-hole, and you need to run. Run far and run fast. This man, who makes 5 to 6 times as much as you, expects you to share equally in an investment where he reaps all the benefits. This is wholly unfair, and he is taking financial advantage of you. He is the one who doesn't understand the situation. You are together for a relationship, for the long haul, while he is in it for a financial reward. Please don't let his double talk dissuade you from moving on and finding somebody who values you for your worth, and not how much you can contribute to their financial stability. All of this, complete double talk and BS, where he gets to usually benefit financially and she doesn't. Then it makes 5 to 6 times more than her and makes her split the dinner bill every time? Hell no, he's a greedy jerk. So you helped him buy a house by supporting him, but he's not helping you buy a house by supporting you? Not the a-hole if I'm understanding correctly. Her boyfriend is milking her dry, and it's like she doesn't even realize it. He's basically using her to pay his mortgage, hence why he wants her to keep paying rent. He doesn't care how much money she has, as long as he gets to keep his own cash. I hope Opie wakes up and see what he's doing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife's siblings she's not their mother and they are no longer children? My wife is the oldest in her family by 9 years, and she was subjected to being a parent figure to her younger siblings by her parents who were crappy and uninvolved parents to all 4 of them. Only difference was, while my wife was forced to raise herself, she was forced to raise her siblings, and she struggled with that. Her siblings view her as their mother. She did make sure they were okay, but once she was 18, she refused to be all they had, and they went into foster care due to the environment they were living in. My wife was forced to drop out of high school at 16 because she found it too much to handle and failed all her classes. Then at 18, she decided she needed to fight for her own future. This is part of why she made the decision to call CPS instead of raising her siblings. She got her GED and she got a degree at a community college. We met while she was in the middle of doing this. She told me all about her childhood and how tough it was for her. She did see her siblings and stayed in their lives, though they were sadly separated in foster care. But they are now 21, 22, and 24 years old and still see my wife as their mother. They were jealous when our children were born, and my wife had to remove them from her life for a couple of years because they were angry at her for being a better mother to our first child than she was to them. Contact has been back for a little over a year now, but they have not really changed. They made my wife feel guilty for pushing them aside instead of working on things. But then they make comment after comment about the effort she goes to for our kids and how she never did that for them, and said it was hurtful to call our son her oldest child when she has them. My wife has told me she doesn't know what to do because their childhoods messed up their perception of her, and I told her I would speak to them the next time. So they stopped by Easter Sunday and were saying to my wife they wanted her to get photos done with them and our kids to show she's mom of all of them and they are just as much her kids as our children are. I told them to stop, that their sister is not their mom, she's their sister. She was a child just like they were, and they are no longer children and they need to start treating my wife as their sister and not their mother who owed them a certain childhood. They told me I have no idea what I am talking about and stormed out. This was the first time they left, and my wife looked so relieved. But her siblings gave her a hard time afterward. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You articulated something she'd been wanting to say for a long time in a way the siblings could understand. Good job. They don't like it. But the truth is, your wife gave up parts of her childhood to take care of them. Nobody got the childhood they deserved. Hopefully someday they'll understand everyone lost in this situation and how lucky they were to have her around when they did. Wish you guys the best. Honestly, it would have been much harsher, but the tact you showed makes you not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? Wow. This entire post is just disturbing. 3 adults can't seem to comprehend that their sister is not their mother is mind-boggling. They all obviously need some serious therapy, and your wife needs some distance. Kudos for having her back. I agree. One of my childhood friends was heavily parentified. She gave up her childhood to care for her mother, and then the 3 younger siblings her mother went on to have. It was heartbreaking to watch her try to hold together the family, starting at the age of 10. I know that my own mother reached out to authorities, who didn't do anything about it, and then provided us much additional help as she could as a single mother herself. My friend is super close with her sibs, but as much as she tried to shield them from their horrible situation, they recognized that it was not normal. They were kids too, so they weren't perfect. They all pitched in to make sure my friend could get as much as an education as possible, and they actually go above and beyond to show their gratitude every day. She's the only real mother they had, but they honor her sacrifices and love her for everything she did. The siblings of the OP do get some pity from me, as all of them grew up in a horrible situation that was beyond their control. But they're adults now. Surely they can see that what they are pushing for is wrong and unhealthy? Surely they are capable of understanding that punishing the sibling, who was forced to care for them as a child herself, is a twisted sense of logic and entitlement. As children, they may have had a past for being too young to see the situation for what it was, but as adults now themselves, they suck. Last story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my brother without childcare over a heater? Some backstory. I live with my 35-year-old brother and his wife and 4 kids. 3 girls, 1 boy, and all 4 and under. I'm basically a live-in nanny for them, and I live in their house rent-free because I don't have a job, while both my brother and his wife work. When they first got pregnant, they asked me to move in with them, with a promise that they would pay me for childcare. Well, that only lasted a month, and they proceeded to have 3 more kids in the process. I never complained because I do live in their house rent-free, and I know he really needed help. Well, They recently came into money trouble, and they now owe an insane amount of money. And they have both been working extra hours to make up what they owe. Now on to what happened. It's been really cold lately, and because of that, the house has been really cold. To turn on the heaters is a process, and I don't know how to do it. So my brother has been turning them all on, except for my room. My room is now the coldest in the house, and I can't sleep at night even with all the thickest blankets. I get pain when I'm cold, so I'm up all night in pain. I've been exhausted watching 4 kids by myself all day, so I have been asking my brother to turn my heater on, but he keeps saying he'll get to it. Well, a week ago he told me that he was never turning mine on because he needs to keep the bills down. I asked him if I just have it on at night and turn the ones in the main room off during the night. And he said no, that it's his house and he'll do whatever pleases in his house. And I don't get a say because I don't help financially. I didn't say anything to him right away. I just texted my mom and asked if she could pick me up. After she said she could, I told him that my mom was coming and I'll see if someone can come pick up my stuff soon. He asked me what I meant, and I only told him that he needs to find someone else to watch his kids. Either get a nanny or one of them quits, because I am not doing it anymore. He told me that I was being dramatic, and that'll give me time to calm down. I said I didn't need time, and he told me to think of the kids and how they're super attached to me. I said I'll still see them with a parent present, because I don't plan on babysitting anymore. At this point, his wife is trying to defuse the situation, and my mom showed up and I asked if it was okay for me to move back in with her, and she agreed and said she'll have my stepdad come pick my stuff up tomorrow. My brother has been blowing up my phone since, and he told our dad, so now he's blowing up my phone too. My dad texted me asking how I could abandon them knowing they're struggling. I feel bad because I did abandon them, but I couldn't do it anymore. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They're abusing you, at least financially. I didn't know it was possible to abuse someone financially. I don't really know what that means. Opie, they're using you as a slave. Your dad can go move into their icy room and watch 4 kids for free if it's so important. Suggest it to him. Otherwise, get your stuff and never go back. They'll try all the usual stuff. Yelling, pleading, begging, threatening. But don't cave. They need you. You don't need them. Not the a-hole. You did live there rent-free, but it's kind of messed up for him to not turn on your heater at night, especially because you were in pain. I don't see why he would treat you like that, especially because you took care of his kids. You'd think your health would also have been a priority? I have rheumatoid arthritis, and it flares up when I'm cold. My brother knew this because he was there when I was diagnosed at 16. He always seemed like he cared, and I realize now he didn't. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad that he was selfish and having me wasn't worth what he did to my mom? My parents broke up 6 months ago. I came home from a trip to my grandparents to basically total chaos. My dad is gay and has been cheating on my mom for their entire relationship, and she found out in a really bad way. It's completely destroyed my mom. She's trying to be okay for me, but I know she's not okay because she cries a lot when she thinks I'm not around and she looks so sad all the time. I'm trying to help and not make it any harder for her, but I am furious at my dad. I refused to see him or speak with him until he finally got to me through a friend's parents and begged to talk. His whole family has disowned him and most of his friends. He said it would be too much to lose me to just because he's gay. I asked him if he always knew, or if he found out after he married mom. He said he always knew, but he was scared and he wanted a family. I asked him if him being scared was worth ruining my mom's life, and he said that they got me out of it at least. That blew me over the top, and I told him he was selfish and disgusting, and that I would rather not exist than have a father like him. I left, and apparently he's telling everyone I hate him for being gay. So my friend's parents have been trying to talk me into forgiving him because he made a mistake out of fear. And me telling him I would rather not exist broke him. My friend says I'm being a homophobic a-hole, but I see my mom, and I don't think I can ever forgive my dad because he knew what he was doing. I don't feel bad about what I said, but am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He's not losing you because he's gay. He's losing you because he cheated on your mother for their entire relationship. Yep, spell it out for the parents he is using to contact you too, OP. Tell them it's not about sexuality. It's about the choice to hurt and betray people instead of being honest. Also, point out he's a manipulative liar willing to throw you under the bus so he can claim victim status, not the a-hole. He lied to her for years, got to marry him under false pretenses, cheated on her, and essentially used her to hide himself and be his baby-making machine. Not the a-hole. It's not the fact that your father knew he was gay from the beginning before his marriage, but the fact that he practically used your mom for his own selfish needs and then cheats on her. That just makes me so angry. Phobia has nothing to do with the fact that what your father did was unforgivable, and you have every right in your mind to be angry. I'm angry with you. What did he expect? Just get your mom pregnant, leave her, take you, and raise you with another man in his life? Excuse me? What is he smoking? He can adopt or get a surrogate, not emotionally manipulate a woman who thought she married someone who genuinely loved her, only to use her body for his own purposes. That makes me sick. Actual physical pain. There was no validation or any kind of apology that would make any of this okay. I hope you and your mother are able to recover from this. Not the a-hole. I assume you would have been equally angry at him if he was straight and cheated on your mom? Yep. The only thing that made this worse is that he always knew he couldn't do right by my mom and used her on top of everything. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom her dream for my wedding stopped being possible the day my dad died? My dad died when I was 7 years old. He was my favorite person. My mom's favorite person at a time, and I kind of think he was the person who could complement our personalities enough for us to be super close. Even as a little kid, I kind of knew that, and it broke the two of us when he died. But then she found someone else. She found Luke. She married Luke when I was 9, and he became her person. Luke, upon realizing my dad had been the parent I was closest to, tried to fill that space and was unwilling to listen when I said that space was reserved for my dad. It caused some tension. Over time, I let some things go. They would call themselves my parents or my mom and dad. I always called him Luke. I always told people close to me about my dad and would make sure it was known Luke was not dad. Our relationship now that I am several years out of their house is amicable but not close. I don't hate them, but my mom and I still don't mesh well. Luke still wants to fill that role my dad had, and I still don't want him to. Ever since I got engaged, my mom has been more present. She has told me how she always dreamed of this day, etc. Over time, she brought up how she and Luke couldn't wait to see him walk me down the aisle and give me my father-daughter dance and how they were excited to be mom and dad of the bride. I told her none of that was happening. She told me it was always her dream though, that from the time she found out she was expecting a girl, she couldn't wait to watch me on my dad's arm and in his arms for a dance. I told her that was possible when dad was alive, but not when he was gone. She told me it was still possible. There was still my dad, Luke, and that he deserved it. They both did. I told her I was walking with my fiancé and no father-daughter dance would happen. I told her he was not going to be listed as father of the bride anywhere because he is not my father. I ended up telling her to leave and I went back to last contact. Then my mom showed up unannounced and started to tell me all about this dream again and what it meant to her. And I told her clearly, without hesitation, that her dream stopped being possible when my dad died because he was not here to do that stuff and that Luke was never going to be filling my dad's role for me. I told her she might be able to switch them out easily, but I was not. She left in tears, telling me I had punished her for moving on and punished my dad, Luke, for not being my real dad. That she and my dad deserved better than that, and I was spiteful. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add more additional details. About Luke. He cut up cards I had made / given my dad for Father's Day that my dad had kept safe before he died, and cut up the back and left the front, and then turned them into a collage and acted like they were cards I had given him. When my mom and him brought out my birth certificate for something, he told me he couldn't wait to see his name on it instead of the old husband. He told me my dad had done nothing special and that he could do what my dad had done for me and my mom, but better. About mom. My mom just erased my dad from and added Luke to, then expected me to do the same. She even went as far as taking photo frames that had stuff like our family or dad and daughter, and replacing them with photos that included Luke instead of my dad. She also told me more than once that Luke was our new favorite person, or would say, Dad is our favorite person like always, and it was always in reference to Luke. Not the a-hole. You don't consider Luke as your father. Period. Your mom and Luke should accept it once and for all, and your mom should also cease her emotional blackmailing. This, not the whole to infinity. Maybe if Luke hadn't tried to replace your dad, he'd be in a much better standing with you. Even if it was so, it is all down to your decision. Be ready for the flying monkeys to come at you about how you're being unreasonable, etc., etc. I'd be ready to block the lot. Not the a-hole. You said it as nicely as you could and she kept pressing the issue. You were not unnecessarily cruel about it. You were just firm. Her and Luke trying to force the issue of him being your new dad from the start was not a healthy approach and was never going to give them the results that they wanted. It's your wedding and they need to respect your boundaries. This right here, and Opie's edits made me sad. Luke actively denigrating her dad and mom basically erasing him from her life. No wonder Opie's insistent that mom and dad will not be playing major roles at her wedding. They've really hurt her in the past and continue to do so. Not the a-hole. Opie's edits are absolutely heartbreaking. Her mom and Luke not only didn't do anything to ease into bringing Luke into her home, they actively tried to erase her father from her world. I'm honestly surprised that Opie allows them any access to her life. I would have gone no contact as soon as I was 18 based on Luke's heinous actions and mom's support of Luke's behavior. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad he has to pick up my son for their special lunches if my daughter and I aren't allowed to be in the same restaurant? I'm 46 female, have 2 brothers. Alan 50 male and James 44 male. Our dad, 75 male, has always preferred my brothers over me. If there was ever a dispute, I was the one punished or yelled at and was treated like I was automatically the one in the wrong, in both childhood and as an adult. My dad has a weekly lunch with his 3 brothers. They never include sisters. Every Friday since 1990. My dad called and asked if my son, Thomas, 8 male, could start attending. I was confused and asked why he would attend a lunch with just his grandpa and great uncles every week. My dad then told me that my brothers had been going every week for the past 10 years and he wanted to add the next generation. I pointed out that my dad has several grandsons, adopted in step, and asked if they were all invited. He said no, because Thomas is his only biological grandson. I was definitely shell-shocked at being excluded for 10 years, and then finding out my nephews, nieces, and daughter would also be excluded? But I only said, just let me know what time and place, and I'll bring him and my daughter and I'll ask for a table on the opposite side of the restaurant and enjoy a mommy/daughter lunch together. She really enjoys those, and I thought it would make up for her being excluded from the big lunch. My dad said no, that he wanted me to drop my son off at his house and he would bring him home afterwards. The problem is that the restaurants they go to central to all my uncles are about 15 minutes from my house, whereas my dad's house is 45 minutes away. So he expects me to drive an hour and have to drop him off and back home, then wait for him to come back home. That would mean my daughter and I couldn't enjoy our own lunch out. I told him he could pick up my son, then go to the restaurant since it was probably closer to my house anyway. He said I was being petty because I never wanted to just let him enjoy his sons. I asked, how am I preventing that? By existing and not having a penis. He hung up on me. Later, my stepmom, 65 female, called and asked me to be more flexible. Since my dad is getting older and not in the best of health, that I should just let him enjoy his time with Thomas that he has left. She meant well, but my dad isn't dying or anything. He's pretty active for his age. I just said that he is welcome to pick Thomas up at my house and then take him to the lunch. And then he can call and find out where my daughter and I are and bring him back to me afterwards. Apparently, my dad didn't want me going out to lunch in the same area because he thinks if I know where they go, I'll crash their lunches and invite myself every week. I'm not sure where he got that idea. Maybe because I said my daughter and I would eat at the same place until they were done? It's not like my son will hide where they ate from me. He always talks about food. My dad and brothers think I'm the a-hole for not just dropping my son off at dad's house like he wants me to. Am I? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He's a huge misogynist, and that's not what you want your son to be around. He is also awful for not including his adopted grandsons. I think it's time you limit contact with your dad. You'd be better off. We are currently only seeing my dad at family events. We have a huge family, so the kids only spend one-on-one time with him at these events and only for a few minutes. My dad also calls me to ask about the kids a couple of times a month. Not the a-hole. Thank you for not letting their nonsense be passed on to a younger generation. Go do something fun with your son and daughter instead. I'm not even sure how my dad got that way, but he definitely passed it on to my brothers. His parents, my grandpa and grandma, had always wanted a daughter and I was the first girl born into the family in 3 generations. They treated me like a queen when they were alive, so I know it didn't come from my grandparents who also treated all of their daughters-in-law very well. I really have to appreciate the irony that only the daughter he refused to include was the only one of his children to birth a male child. Don't let your son get sucked into the family boys club. That's some gross behavior. Tell him you'll bring your son when you and your daughter are invited. I'm all for girls' nights/boys' nights, but this is family. That's a good idea. If he wants to include me and my daughter once every couple of months, we'll bring my son to the lunch occasionally. It's not as if no one else has ever been. Occasionally, when my cousins are in the town, the odd one of them will go to the lunch too. Even my girl cousins. I've just never been invited personally. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to watch my sister-in-law's child even though she had a meltdown? I, 33 female, have a daughter, 5 female. My sister-in-law, long-term partner of my stepbrother Jake. Tina, 34 female, has a daughter Cassie, also 5, from a previous relationship. Every summer for the past few years, me, my step-siblings, and our partners have visited our parents at the holiday retreat they run, from anywhere between 4 to 7 weeks. This past summer, I was there for 6 weeks and Jake and Tina were there for 4. My husband was there for 3 weeks on and off due to work commitments, and I brought the nanny. During the 3rd week, Jake and Tina were there. My husband and I decided to take my daughter on a day trip, as the nanny had the day off and we were going a little stir-crazy. We told everyone at breakfast, and afterwards, when it's just the women at the table finishing our tea, Tina asked if we could take Cassie with us on our day out. I was very confused as to why Tina would ask this, as I have barely any interaction with Cassie. I find some of her behavior very off-putting, and I don't have a natural inclination towards children. And second, Tina and I don't know each other well enough that I'd ever consider asking her such a favor. I said no. It was just a family day out for the 3 of us and presumed that would be the end of it. But Tina insisted. She begged me to take Cassie and said she hasn't had a break the whole summer, that she's overwhelmed and would like to spend some time with just Jake. I said no again, and Tina asked if my nanny could watch Cassie for a few hours, but I told her it's the nanny's day off. Tina started to get tearful, saying she really thought that as a fellow mother I would understand needing a break, since I have someone employed for that very purpose. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just said goodbye to my mother and started to leave, and as I did, Tina burst into tears. My mother told me to go and she would calm Tina down. When we came back later that evening, Tina wasn't at dinner and my parents and Jake were babysitting Cassie. My mother said she had reached a compromise with Tina that they would watch Cassie for the evening so Tina could rest. They can't during the day as they are still actively running the retreat. The next day, Tina reappeared and everything was back to normal, though she was noticeably colder towards me, but it didn't bother me. A few days ago, we were discussing all getting together for Christmas in a group chat, and Tina said she was really looking forward to it, but that she hopes we could all be a bit more accommodating with the kids and that it takes a village. I just replied that I wouldn't be needing any accommodations, thanks, and the conversation moved on. My mother says while she understands why I said no, seeing the state Tina was in and the meltdown she had after I left, she would have said yes. She said I don't understand how tough it is because I have so much help. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. As others have said, asking was fine, but guilting or acting entitled was not. And commenting on an element of this others haven't yet. It isn't your nanny's job to watch other people's kids, and you are not in a position to accept that responsibility for her. When my friends would ask if my nanny could pick their kids up or watch them after school, or other things, I would say, you'd have to ask her. Her hourly rate is X. I will let her know I'm okay with her also watching your kids that day if she feels comfortable with additional responsibility. Yes, I did say to Tina that since she's my employee, I'm responsible for allowing her time off in peace. So I wouldn't be asking her that on her day off. I didn't want her to feel pressured because she's traveling with us. Also, she's from an agency. There's a lot of paperwork involved in her watching my daughter, for insurance purposes. I'm not sure she's allowed to watch other kids. Kudos to you for not only standing up for yourself, but your nanny as well. If Tina knows how hard it is, she could recognize that foisting her daughter on someone else is ridiculous. If she needed help, she can hire her own babysitter/nanny. You are definitely not the a-hole.